Nice to meet you. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I think it's going to be a fun day.
Yeah. So, for the record, why don't you tell me who you are and what your business is?
So my name is Mallory Yawnghwe. I took my husband's last name, so I go by, my maiden name is Anderson. I'm from the Satellite Cree Nation in northeastern Alberta. But my business is called Indigenous Box, and it's a seasonal subscription box that aims to elevate and champion Indigenous people's businesses and help them reach new markets.
Very, very cool. That's all, and if I'm not mistaken, you started it right here out of MacEwan University.
Yeah, basically. Well, actually, like the concept came from Business 201 a long time ago. Second year university, actually took Business 201 to try to figure out, is business actually like my thing? Yeah. And it turns out it was. I started a business called Surprise Bag back in Business 201, and because you have to like start a business, run it for 6 weeks using only $5. And so we had our group of 4 and we spent $19.95, like no lie, on candy and little tiny brown paper bags. Yeah. And then we pitched that if we sold these brown paper bags full of candy, like if we sold the marketing space on the brown paper bags to the businesses around campus, for we could like sell these bags on campus and like turn a profit. And so it's sort of it evolved a little bit through the beginning, but we definitely decided that, okay, instead of selling it, we're going to exchange it. So the marketing space on the brown paper bags for gift cards from these businesses. So Subway, Tim Hortons, you know, all the, they were like, oh God, here's a student again. Here's a bunch of gift cards, you know. But so every 10 bags of $1 candy that we sold on campus in the cafeteria had a chance to win a gift card. Okay, so no, not one of my profs ever even said that this was illegal. Like you can't like buy something in hopes of win something. Anyways, we still got a really great mark. We turned a profit. They were $1 a bag, and the student got candy either way, or you know, a $5 Starbucks gift card or something. But we donated all of our profits to iHuman. It was really great. It was fun, but it was so challenging. We my team pretty much like left me high and dry. So we were, you know, it's all like basically first year university students. They're trying to figure out like, do I actually want to be here anyways? Yeah. And so we had some, you know, challenges with the team, and in the end, it was like 2 of us, and we were, you know, doing our final accounting, and we had a ton of candy left over. It was so anyways. But we brought those concepts of Surprise Bag is my really like creative name, but we brought those elements to Indigenous Box, and we were like thinking of like, you know, subscription boxes were on the rise, and we're like, what if it's like, you know, something that's a surprise? You know, people love surprises. And then in the world of COVID, the pandemic hit, we weren't surprised anymore. Like we were, you know, everything was just like, I can't believe this is happening, sort of thing. Yeah. But I wanted something to be a good surprise, something that like came in the mail and like, oh my gosh, I wonder what's in it. And so, you know, kind of that was how Indigenous Box, like a discovery subscription box, was made. Like we bought all the items and put them together and told some really nice stories, and you know, watched people do their live unboxings, because that's a thing, you know, people love to do that. And it's cool because then you get their reactions too.
That's awesome.
But
so who's this?
Well, that's me, but it's every Indigenous woman. She represents so much for Indigenous women and Indigenous kids too. Yeah. Growing up, I didn't ever really see myself represented in different media or products or things like that. So I really wanted to like create something that allowed Indigenous kids to see themselves in these spaces of opportunity, allow Indigenous women to see themselves represented in a product that was, you know, made with them in mind, made by an Indigenous woman, but like something that was for everybody. Yeah. So she represents a lot, and we're really proud to like, you know, she's more than me, but we're really proud that she gets to be on all the boxes, and she gets to like escort these boxes to every province and territory, like across Canada. And she was made by JCat, Jonathan Cardinal, local Cree artist, who created her and sort of brought her to life.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Now, so you started literally just a year ago, I think, right?
Yeah. 11 months and 1 day. Well, we're 30 days away from our 1-year anniversary.
Very exciting.
So super cool.
And so what did you notice really changed between, you know, a year ago and now? Like, what does that kind of transition look like? Maybe even in numbers, or just, you know, excitement, encouraging things, challenges. I mean, we'll get into some of that too.
Definitely challenges. I think the biggest thing that has changed is that we, you know, went from thinking we could sell, you know, a few boxes out of our basement to like exponential growth in such a short time. And we're very fortunate and grateful for all of that, but it has been a lot of hard work. We went from, you know, doing the pitch and writing the business plan, staying up all night working on the website, to like doing that all the time. So
perfect. Nice
it's great. So we're constantly working. We're always on our phones. We're always on our computers, and we literally have our desktops at work and our laptops whenever we're not there, and then our phones whenever we're away from our laptops. So we're connected all the time because it's an e-commerce business, right? Yeah. We have to make sure that we're making sure that we're responding in time, that we're addressing things that we need to, like in those moments. Because I think timing could like make or break a company,
sure.
right?
Sure.
You got to make sure that you're available and that people see that if they're having trouble with e-commerce, which a lot of people still are having trouble with e-commerce, then we have to be able to provide that support, right?
And so who's we?
My husband and
Okay.
myself,
All right.
and our 2 daughters. So we
Nice.
have a 14-year-old. It's her birthday today, so we went to Starbucks early this morning. She's
Great.
super pumped to get her free coffee.
Oh,
It's her
right,
thing.
yes,
It's the
yeah.
thing. But they have been working with us, so it's just me and my husband who've like really kind of brought all of our messaging together, honed our story, figured out our creative marketing strategy. And then our 4-year-old, who helps us take breaks and remembers or reminds us
So
to
rich.
just take a break to play, you
Yeah.
know? And so everybody has a part in it, but it's definitely a family affair.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that. I mean, I think a reality of business can be somewhat overwhelming at times. But so how do you work in the balance of the family and the you know, all the stuff? I mean, it sounds like there isn't one, but you know,
Yeah.
I know you have some fun. So tell me a little bit more about how you fit those in.
Well, we definitely try to have fun, but we haven't figured out the balance thing yet. You know, with the pandemic, we brought our kids, you know, home from school, and they've been at home. So everybody's like, you know, we still get tired of each other, just like a normal family. And our little one is constantly like, you know, Mom, can you look at me? I'm playing the game. Look at the thing, Mom. And I'm like, oh, just hold on, one more email. Like, so we don't have balance, but we try to have fun. We play some video games, and I don't know, just hang out. We watch movies together, and it's kind of our thing. There's really not much you can do during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I don't know, we don't do much, but we like each other still.
And you enjoy each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to you as the entrepreneur. Okay, so you know, you came up through Business 201 in MacEwan. You saw this possibility and you actually started enjoying it. You're creating a bit of a role model for Indigenous women to come into it and see themselves in the process as well, in the role of an entrepreneur. Did you have that? Was there anybody that you kind of looked to and said, you know, I want to be like that, like Indigenous or not, woman or not, anything or not?
Not really. Like, I always identified with Indigenous women who were, you know, making space, because, you know, our role as Indigenous women is to walk with as many people as you can to those spaces, right? It's such a collective mindset rather than an individual. And so I always looked to other Indigenous women. And when I was in university and started, I think I was taking like marketing 201 or something, I suddenly was like, oh, look for Indigenous businesses. And I started seeing people like Ian Gladue, who was doing Fansawan. He was selling dry meat, like traditionally smoked dry meat, and telling a story. And then I saw, Carrie Armstrong, who has a store on like just off 124th Street. And I was like, wow, these people are doing it. Like, but they're Indigenous. Like, oh, maybe I could do that.
Yeah.
But I always thought I could. Like, I was selling cupcakes when I was a kid at powwows and like out of a cardboard box and like just like the most ridiculous. But I thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I didn't know that word entrepreneur. I just like, knew that I wanted to do something that like interacted with people and told a story in a way that is like, Indigenous storytelling, right? It's like we like to like share our stories and like people relate to them. And then suddenly, so you're telling your story of how you're an Indigenous entrepreneur when you're a kid, and then another kid is selling cupcakes at the powwows. It's like you see yourselves in these spaces. And I guess I didn't really have that. Like I come from a family of helpers. My sister's a social worker. It's all human service. My mom ran a group home for boys, and then she had like a gaggle of us girls at home, which is like, how on earth, like, do you think that like you get to a point in your life where you're like, I just want to help as many people as I can through my career? And then it took me like a decade to realize that's what an entrepreneur is. It's the same thing that my parents have been doing. They help people.
I love that.
And coming from like a space like that, like it gives you an opportunity to like think of not just a problem, like business is about solving a problem, but not just a problem, but seeing it as an opportunity to like help. I went to school. I was fortunate to be able to go and take an undergraduate in supply chain management of all things, right? But like I had that as an opportunity to like, now I have that knowledge. I can share that with other people. And it's not just mine to hold on to, right? So I don't know. I think like even way back to like my first time on campus here, I was a fancy shawl dancer with like the Rainbow Spirit dance troupe. We were dancing at like in the gymnasium for the Dreamcatchers Youth Conference. And it was like, I kept thinking, wow, these kids are so smart. There's so many like kids who are going to university. I wish I was that smart, But then, I ended up doing like, I took on this role with a mentor, and she was helping me present a session called "When Opportunity Knocks, How Will You Answer?" And it's like, I didn't know the answer. Like I was a high school dropout, and it was like it took me until that moment to realize like how much my story is about so much more than just me, right? Here I was talking about opportunity of all things when in the same place, like my grandparents could have never been here, like just such a contrast. And I realized, this is my story. Like I can help people. I can, take what I learned and distribute it.
So that's fascinating, by the way. I mean, is there that shift to ownership in a sense, right? It's not just looking at the people around you and saying, wow, I wish I could be like them, but all of a sudden going, wait a second, I can do that, and I need to do that, and I want to do that. So, tell me more about that, how that looked, and what was some of the inflection points, like what was going on in your head? I mean, okay, high school dropout, right? That creates a story about yourself to a degree, but then you go back and you take a upgrade and get into an undergrad, and wow, like not everybody even does that anywhere. So what are some of these ownership inflection points? Like where did it shift?
Oh gosh, like I've been working on like my confidence building and living with anxiety and all of that since I was a kid, not just when I moved to the city from the reserve, but when I met my husband here in Edmonton, he like saw something in me that I didn't see in me, right? And he would always encourage me. Like when I went to apply for university, he said, why don't you just apply for business school? That'd be so great. I'm like, oh, I'll never get in. you know? Like, just, I already
Sure.
decided that for myself. And he says this all the time, actually, we're working on this in the business right now, is that you have to stop saying no for people. And I had to stop saying no for myself. Like, before I even knew what the potential or the outcome could be, I already decided that it was a no. That, oh, they already decided that I was a no. That, you know, they wouldn't accept me. And he was like, just apply, just try. And he's been like that for our whole marriage. Like, we've been married, I don't know, 17 years.
Wow, that's great. Like
but
when you were 4?
I'm 35. But no, I met him when I like literally came out here. Like, I was 19 or 18, yeah. And yeah, it was just before my 19th birthday. And he's just always been like, just so supportive and like always encouraging me to do things or like go outside of my comfort zone, and just like I'm always thinking of like the worst outcome, like, oh, it's not going to turn out, or what if this happens, or, you know, it's somebody who lives with anxiety, they know that feeling, right? But he's like, well, what if it goes right? What if everything turns out perfectly? I was like, oh, I guess I never thought of that.
I don't know. What am I supposed to do with that?
But yeah, no, I think a lot of that came from him pushing me into these into these spaces where he's like, you belong there, you know, like just as much as everybody. You're as smart as those people.
So would you, I mean, not to get into the psychology of it, but, you know, you didn't, because of the anxiety and things like that, you didn't necessarily have a lot of belief in yourself, but he did.
Yeah.
But you believed him too. Like, you chose to go, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So how hard was that to wrestle with and overcome? I mean, once you got it, did it just kind of go, or do you still deal with it every day today?
I still deal with it, you know, as an entrepreneur. Like, also, we get some media too, and like, I went through like so much imposter syndrome. You're like, oh, I don't deserve this success. Like, why would people want to believe in me, you know, or things like that. And you suddenly start like doubting yourself. But I think for the most part, going into those uncomfortable situations, or you know, being in those positions where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to figure my way out of here, or I have to not be anxious, or I have to, you know, don't panic. Like, that's my brain.
Right.
But being in those situations over and over and over again, and then realizing that other people suddenly saw this potential I had. Like my mentors, Karen McKenzie is one of my mentors, and she saw so much potential in me. And she's like, you have this light, you have to share it. How are you going to share your light? And then I started realizing, like, you're right, I have a responsibility. My responsibility is to overcome my anxiety in these moments and actually do something that would help other people.
Yeah. Was it partly, what I'm hearing, is it partly a little bit getting your eyes off of just yourself and actually looking at the impact that you're going to have with others?
Absolutely. That's like
going back to the idea of helping others as well, right?
Yeah. It definitely, like, when I started to look at like the impact that I could have, or thinking of like, what if everything works out perfectly? Then I was like, oh, why shouldn't I try?
Right.
You know? And even as awkward as I am, I just went for it. I pushed myself through those anxiety moments and decided, like, yeah, I could do this. You know, my hands are shaking.
Yeah.
You know, I carry tobacco in my pocket, and I'm like, you know, I can do this. I know that like so many people who have came before me have prayed for people to like have the freedom that we have as Indigenous people, to suddenly like go to university, start a business, you know?
Yeah.
I think that I have a responsibility because of all of that legacy that I now know of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I have to now.
So, would you feel like you've kind of always been successful? Like, where are some places that you maybe stepped into that hasn't always worked for you?
Oh, okay. So, I started training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Nice. Okay.
It's not that nice. I am so terrible at it. I like to think that, like, I don't know, and I probably realized this during all of that. I was like, I like to do things where I think that I can do it, you know?
Right,
like,
sure.
I know that I'll be really good at it if I just, like, go and do the thing.
Yeah.
And walked into, like, this gym just off White Ave, method, jiu-jitsu, and I was like, these guys are amazing. Wow, like look at them. They're fighting, they're rolling, they look so badass. That could be me. It was not me. I was like a baby moose rolling around, so like awkward, and like my coach was just like, wow. He never said that. He was always so encouraging, but like in my brain, I was like, these people are watching me and they're like, oh my gosh.
That's great. You'd figured you'd be good at it. Long limbs.
No. Just awkward. There's a whole bunch of rolling. It's like, it's like a giraffe trying to like skip rope,
Nice. That's a good image.
That's me.
So where are you going to go from here? Like, you've got your 1-year launch coming up. That's exciting.
Very exciting.
And you're going to grow. And give me maybe a basic number. You started with the idea of 1 box, and somebody actually buys it. Woohoo! First customer. And where are you at now, and where are you hoping to go in the near future?
Well, we started with the first box, and we turned it into thousands of boxes. Every province and territory gets them. Over 100 corporations and nonprofit organizations use us, and we're just going to continue. But it's not just about increasing the number of boxes,
Sure.
right? We want to maintain the integrity of the businesses we feature. I go back to my teachings of supply chain. Supply chain isn't about just the end result. Mm-hmm. It's about building the suppliers along the way. I want to be able to build the entrepreneurs we work with and help us like increase capacity, get to a place where we can be like, all be at the table.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about your business, it's about the businesses that lead into you and the businesses that lead out from there, right?
It's about like building capacity and building community and telling Indigenous people like, we belong in those spaces just like everybody else. Like, let's go. Skoden.
Yeah. Love that. And so, how do you get the word out? Like, what's the marketing look like? What's the way you do things to talk to people and get more people? Is it strictly word of mouth? Do you just broadcast it on social media all the time? What kind of things do you do?
We're on social media for sure. I'm learning how to be good at social media. But for the most part, it's been word of mouth. We haven't put a lot of money, maybe a couple $100 into Facebook ads, but we haven't done any marketing yet. Word of mouth, I call it the moccasin telegraph. It travels fast. Yeah. People see us, they find us, they see what we're all about, because it's, like I said, it's about building our supply chain, building the original supply chain. And people want to get on board. They want to, they want their companies to have all of their staff have the boxes and be able to say, hey, look, we're collaborating with these Indigenous entrepreneurs, not just one, 5.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go forward a bit and I'm going to go back a bit. So forward a bit, this goes well, it keeps growing. What's your kind of personal vision of your future? Like, where do you want to see this kind of go? What kind of an impact is the world going to have by this being out there more?
I want to set a precedent for Indigenous business that, it's not about sympathy, it's about sovereignty. It's about us being able to like tell our stories in a way that is true to us. And we're not trying to adapt to a world that we just exist in, that we are, coming to these spaces and we're like, this is who we are, this is what we represent, these are our communities, and this is the legacy that we've inherited, which, tells such a positive story, because like the narrative right now is very negative. It's heavy. Mm-hmm. And I just want to tell the other side of the story, that as Indigenous people, we've inherited so much greatness, so much strength and resilience. Like, I don't want us to have to be resilient our next generation,
right.
I don't want to be known as like Indigenous people, they're so resilient,
Right.
I want that to end now, to, set a precedent to like, we are here, we showed up. And the stats say it, like Indigenous people are starting businesses 9 times the national average, and our population is growing at a rate 4 times faster than the, Canadians,
Yeah.
the rest of Canada. And so like, just imagine where we're gonna be in 10 years. All I see is like opportunity. I see so many Indigenous people standing in those positions of like, I'm an entrepreneur. I've built this company. I'm the founder of this company.
Yeah.
I'm leading the way for $1 billion economy.
Nice.
And there are people out there that are just starting. This is the beginning
Okay.
of what we're going to do to revolutionize Indigenous business and supply chain.
I love that. I love
That's
that.
that's
The
what I
original
hope.
supply chain.
The original supply chain. We're
Yeah.
building it, rebuilding it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. I mean, if we're talking to this massive opportunity that's ahead of us, and you had the opportunity to tell yourself back in the day, like, it's rare that people identify as an entrepreneur in the first place. Like, I remember that even at 10 years old, I'm like, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
But if you were to go back and talk to that earlier self of yours, what kind of hope, what kind of messaging would you give to that person coming up, you know, to you coming up and saying, you know what, you got this? But
Yeah.
how would you say it?
I would say be gentle on yourself. We carry a lot of weight that's not ours to carry alone.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll set that down when you're ready, but just keep learning. And I wish I knew that when I was
Yeah.
younger. But now I'm ready to, I'm ready to take on the world
Yeah.
and show the rest of Canada and the world that Indigenous entrepreneurs are doing incredible things. That's the message I started out with. That was our pitch video for the grant.
Yeah,
Was, we're a force. We're a force to be collaborated with.
that's awesome.
And that's the message I want to maintain.
So you've done a brilliant job of creating that supply chain, that community, that ongoing, supply chain, I guess is a great way, but community I like too.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, are you giving back as well? Like in a sense of mentoring, are you talking to others? Are you reaching out and lifting those people up and helping them? And what does that look like?
I guess so. Like, I don't intentionally say like, today I'm gonna like talk to the people and mentor the people, but I work with a lot of youth. We don't market a lot of the stuff that we do on the back end, because I don't think that I don't want that to be our thing.
Sure.
I want to be like that we are a, profitable corporation, but we also do the other things that, we don't have to shout out, but we work
Right.
with a lot of youth. There's some really cool stuff coming in our spring renewal box that is very centered around working with Edmonton Public School Board and
Nice.
some really cool kids. And my plan is to I've always wanted to start a fund that helps small businesses, Indigenous businesses, access to grant money to help them, find a lawyer, hire a lawyer, incorporate their companies, get their business insurance or their business license. I wanted to do these little micro grants. And, it's becoming more clear of how I can do that. And I want to call it the Indigenous Future Entrepreneur Development Fund.
Is it an acronym?
IFED.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay, I like that.
I thought of that a way long time ago, and I set my goal in my lifetime, this is what I want to do. And I'm getting so much closer to be able to do that. And so, and I think through Indigenous Box I might be able to do something like that, where we're building our vendors, we're building our suppliers, and we're building access to modern forms of commerce for so many Indigenous peoples.
Yes. I love that. I mean, it's such it's a big focus for me too. Just working with entrepreneurs. I'm EIR, entrepreneur in residence, and man, the opportunity to create this overwhelming community for entrepreneurs is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So you giving them an avenue to be able to get stuff out and present and showcase new stuff, it's fantastic.
I want people to think, oh, I could start a business, because what if I could get my products in Indigenous Box?
Yeah.
Then you can, absolutely.
Yeah.
Start the business, do the thing. Here's some money, start the grant. How many products can you give me?
Right.
Let's get to the how to work together and how to build their brands. And that's essentially what we want to do, is help these entrepreneurs reach new markets and increase their capacity, hone their processes, you know, be able to build what they could have like a living wage from. They can have their own
Love it.
career.
So when you're looking at the again the last year, there's been no doubt some growth challenges. You get supply chain, but where have some of the biggest hiccups come, you know, as you've tried to build the capacity for your business?
So many hiccups. As an entrepreneur, you think, I have a business idea, I can like roll it out, it's going to be so seamless. Such lies. It's such hard work, and we have been trying to figure out so many problems, and a lot of them, like, I'm super grateful because a lot of our customers, you can't even see the problems. You know, if it's something coded on the background, we're like, oh my God, like how could we have overlooked that? How could we have made that big mistake? Like we've made very expensive mistakes, but our customers don't get to see that. They don't have to see that. And they don't have to worry about that, you know?
So can you share one? Like I'm just thinking of, we're talking to entrepreneurs. We want to help them to understand that they can do this, that they can see themselves in this story. And I always explain to people that one of the elements of being an entrepreneur means that you have to deal with chaos. Like you have to be relatively comfortable in a level of chaos.
Yeah.
Being a parent isn't much different at times. Like I've never done this before. But maybe give me a bit of a challenge if you have one from your business where it's like, you can't believe that this has gone wrong in the middle of it, and what did you do to kind of work your way out of it?
Oh gosh. Okay, so our second box went out over the summer, and there was one little button that we had to click. We didn't have a checklist, a launch day checklist. Sure, yeah. We were just like, oh, we know, like, we built it. We know we have to do all the things, 1, 2, 3 to 15, sure. And then we launch. The site is live. I went golfing that morning, and I'm learning how to golf. I'm really terrible at golf, but I'm trying. I said I'll give myself, a summer. It's not so great. Anyways, I went golfing that morning. My husband was at home. I did the checklist, or not the checklist. I did the mental checklist. I was like, oh, turn this on, turn that on, check the code, check the analytics, do all the back end to make sure that everything was fine. There was one little box that you have to check to make sure that our customers had a very seamless checkout.
Right.
It wasn't until noon, and that was 5 a.m.
Oh no.
That, I was half awake. I'm putting on the analytics and checking the Google recapture. I'm half awake. I'm like, oh, there we go. They're starting to buy in Toronto or in Nova Scotia and then Toronto. And I'm like still kind of waking up, doing this like in bed on my laptop, getting the site live. Didn't check the box. And noon came and I called my husband. Oh my God. I'm pretty sure he hung up on me because he was like, I'm going to check it right now. Yeah. And so we had to run spreadsheets to track manually all the orders that came in from 5 a.m. to noon. And when you go on launch day, they're coming in every 30 seconds.
Right.
We were drowning in our spreadsheet, and we've had to maintain that same spreadsheet up until this point because of the mistake we made.
Wow.
So every launch now, we have to go through and double check the timestamp on our spreadsheet for every single order that morning.
Crazy.
It's a mess. I'm pretty sure he hated me just a little bit that morning, and then he was like, okay, we have to have a checklist.
Yeah.
We have to not go golfing the morning of the launch date.
Golfing, that's so random.
So random. Somebody in university was like, if you want to be successful in business, you better learn how to golf. So then I had my own personal checklist of like, okay, an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to do these things, and golf was one of them. So like, who cares?
That is actually interesting.
Yeah.
I've had some great things happen on the golf course, but I wouldn't say it was a mandatory element of entrepreneurship.
I mean, I see how people can, like, you know, talk about business. You're out there, you know,
Yeah.
you have somebody, you have no cell service,
Right.
first of all. That is like probably the number one thing why people golf and be in business.
Yeah.
But I get it. Maybe I'll be good at it one day. I don't know. Who knows?
So how do people find out about you, buy the box, get a hold of you, ask you more questions, get to know you more? What's
Well,
something
they can go to our website. So we're at indigenousbox.ca. Super easy. They can learn all about me there and my initiative, my goals for the business, what our messaging is, and you know what the vision is behind Indigenous Box. If they want to join us as an entrepreneur, like in the beginning we had to find people,
Sure.
and now they're finding us. And
Awesome.
they can email us at joinus@indigenousbox.ca. And for all of our custom orders, as we do so many corporate orders now, they could email us at corporate@indigenousbox.ca. And yeah, lots of ways to find us, and on all the socials. You know, we're at Indigenous Box, and super easy. We're the Indigenous subscription box.
Absolutely. So in kind of the last minute, is there anything that you would really want to have known about you and or the business and or kind of your vision in life?
And my vision in life, that's big. I want our next generation of kids to like come into these spaces and like have a little bit more ease walking in these two worlds than I had. I want Indigenous people to like see themselves in these spaces and be able to take up space. I always say decolonizing business is about doing business with an abundance mindset where there's room for all of us.
Yes.
And you know, doing business in a way that is focused on community. We're like the first generation of our people here in this territory to not go to residential school. I'm 35 years old. I was 10 when the last residential school closed. You know, so we're at the very beginning of the change that's coming. And I want Indigenous kids to thrive. I want our next generations to like to do things that, you know, we can pray for right now. That we're like, I hope that my kids will, you know, grow up to be these incredible, strong, powerful advocates and representatives of our nations. And I want them to bring pride to their communities. That's what I came out here to do. I wanted to come out here and do something that can make a change, that could lead to something really good, and that could bring a lot of pride to my family and my nation. And I'm so proud to say that I'm from Saddle Lake, that I'm Cree, you know. I always used to say, like when I was a kid, I would say, Edmonton e tute an cowboy boots e puskaman. Like I was gonna go to Edmonton and I was gonna bring my dancing shoes. And I showed up.
Nice. I like that. I love that. Speaking of great shoes, you got some pretty cool shoes on.
Jonathan Cardinal, who is also the artist behind our logo. He goes by J-Cat, and he is just my favorite. We get him to do so much for us and for Indigenous Box, and I love all of his work. I'm obsessed with it. And actually, he's from the reserve that's just next to mine.
Okay.
So he's from Goodfish, and so we're like neighboring reserves.
That's awesome. Well, Mal, it's so awesome having you. And this is really, really cool. It's great to talk about that. Great to see the work that you've been done. Great to kind of follow your progress from even early and beginning and through MacEwan and into this. It's very exciting. I wish you all the best of luck, and anything I can do to help, please please reach out.
You're gonna get sick of me because I'll probably take you up on that offer.
That's awesome.
Colin, I need you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. This is such a great opportunity, and I always say thanks for creating space for us to tell our stories, and that's what we need going forward.
100%. These are great stories.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much.